I'll make a statement and say where and how and why I am going to say this. So basically, our education system is busy creating poverty. Yeah, the government is creating poverty. How? Look at Kavango. It's been divided into two regions. This was supposedly to make it easier to manage the big region, which has so many people it needs to be divided in two, and yet their population in the census is different. Okay, according to the census, Namibia's second largest tribe population are the Kavango people. Now, the first are the Ovambo people, and there is this sense of privilege that has been inherited from the rhetoric of the freedom fighters. They believe since they facilitated in the transition to a new government, they are entitled to rule however and for how long they want, even if it means cutting political deals to create new jobs by dividing up something that doesn't need to be divided into two. My plight with the people of the Kavango, the civil servants, the police, the military, teachers, everybody that works for the civil industry in this in Namibia. So these people, according to statistics and research, happen to be, this is now the Kavango and the Caprivi, or as they call it now, Zambezi. They have the poorest regions within the country. Yet, poverty eradication is not focused on one of the biggest, on one of the largest populations suffering from poverty. And this is because the Kavango region was basically closed off. Closed off in respect where there wasn't a lot of tribal warfare. Kavango people mostly did not engage. As for the Ovambo region, people did engage. They went into exile. Some of them were born there, and they have this sense of, we fought for this country, this person died, but how many people exactly can these people come and serve within their capacity from their experience as guerrilla fighters? And people keep forgetting the politics. There were people that fought, but there were people that had the political organ. Now, that sense of privilege then goes to the other tribe. They believe because we speak the same language as these people, they are part of us. That mentality is what has led the Kavango region to be in such poverty, because the Kavango region is sort of where everybody goes. Most tribes are welcome there. Races, everything. The people are very accommodating. Thus, they do have an intimidation factor whereby they are too afraid to speak out. And then they get censored. While it's the truth, within this country, we have tribal privilege. Now I've noticed a lot of Damara speaking people wanting to identify themselves as Damara because that's the language that the president speaks. And that doesn't make any sense, because politics should be regional. And now we have this top-heavy government which doesn't delegate beyond the capital city. So where do you want to be if you want to be successful? Where the people that have influence are. And that is the narrative that leads to a lot of Kavango people not being put into positions of power that can benefit the region, because they would have a say for their region from their knowledge of the region, not just from guessing or from top authority down. It's supposed to be down, giving the information up at the top. Then the top can respond respectively. But that sense of, no, Kavangos are hardworking yet they are not smart, Kavangos are fools, they will believe in anything, Kavangos are villagers and so forth, that particular narrative so to us who are accommodating of all tribes and races, it shows us the unfairness of the political structure. This is institutional poverty. The region is cut off. The people cannot capitalize on animal farming, because their product is considered to have a low quality, while the former governments, the people from the former governments who have the commercial farms, are considered by mind, by way of psychological inferiority, as the people who have placed the really good land, or that is the type of land that you should farm in, while we all know that if the traditional authority has a better pipeline with government, they should be councillors for their region too. Councillors in by way of, they should be given some sort of autonomy, and this will enable the people to have influence on the traditional authorities. They are not there to be worshipped. It's 2016, they should be there to provide. The king at the moment on the throne, I guess, in the Kavango region, is very, very cowardish. He's a coward. The only way for him to be pushed out of power is to assess and list that there is someone in the bloodline who correlates and is the actual factual king of the Kwangali people. But last I checked, people are not fighting for that position. I mean, people in power, some are in power as placeholders. They are the face you see. They are the ones that read the speeches. They might not be particularly be in charge. They might be being delegated instruction to from the middle or the bottom or at the top sideways. And okay, I guess we all know that the e-government is in full swing. I'll just leave it at that. That I should never say that. So, regional bias as well as social bias. These things are why people are frustrated. Water bills are high in a region with an annual river, and some were speaking about getting water from that from the river and transporting it all the way to Windhoek. Doesn't this just prove the regional bias? Why not accommodate the people in that region first? And if Vintukas want, they can move to the Kavango region where there is water, just like people move from the Kavango region to go look for jobs in Vintu. That is fair. Removing the red line and training commercial farmers to be annual farmers is empowerment, and thus a method of reducing poverty, because psychological poverty is what the region was suffering from. Psychological, by way of, when people speak about the Kavango region, it is spoken to in a demeaning tone. When people speak about the Caprivi region, it's spoken about also in a very low tone. Let's forget what we read in the newspapers and on NBC. We know Caprivi has not been developed much ever since independence, while these regional towns should be the regional should have the regional council as well as the traditional council as a backbone. So you have people that are uninformed because they are only in Windhoek, don't go out there to research. You have those people and they have no clue what's going on there, apart from the regions which have people in higher positions of power who know the struggles of where they come from and have an equal voice. These regions don't have an equal voice, and it's not about tribe. It's about empowering the people of the region, who happen to be the majority in the region. So if out of 10 people, 2 are Ovambo speaking, and in every department you hear that the Ovambos have been promoted, you start to see a case of they believe that the Kavangos themselves don't have the capacity to have someone who can go into that particular position of power. And this is all a mental thing because of the infrastructural barriers as well as the economic barriers that are put forth by these infrastructure barriers as well as communication barriers. Kavango has been developing, especially Rundu, like nobody's business because of the people. If you want to see people given land and working very hard to build a proper home on that land, Rundu is the place. You have people that are at the open market who live in proper bricked houses. Sanitation is good, water is good, electricity is good. And this comes from thinking ahead and saying we want better. But if you want better and you meet a barrier that stops you because of your tribe, they want you to champion the entire country and neglect yourselves. That's wrong. That's why the initiative for economic independence has to be about the Kavango region being allowed to express themselves. During elections, politicians express themselves. We all campaigned. I don't need the membership card to prove to people this and this. Investigate that all you want. The numbers are there. So if that is the case, obviously some of us would have internal insight. So as opposed to being scared of the implications of saying this tribe and that tribe, we should have a narrative that is not disruptive but is still a protest for what people deserve. President Barack Obama, president of the most powerful nation on the planet, he marched with people. They recreated the march of Martin Luther King. As people were protesting the different things they were protesting, never was there a sense of people marching means danger. No, it was showing even in the most developed nation in the world. People demonstrating their plight to government is how government in turn improves upon people's plights. Imagine in the Caprivi region, the number of people who end up in relationships with teachers, young kids, is mind-boggling. This shows that there is a lack of presence. They can make whatever statement from afar, but as long as they don't come to these regions and put instruction down by themselves, then it won't be an instruction that will be heeded. The UN complies and complied. Information redistribution had to be taken back to Caprivi. After 25 years, there was still a lot of people that didn't understand HIV and AIDS. A lot of people that believed that you can actually be bewitched and you would have AIDS or HIV. The malaria epidemic is practically bordered off, where the world is defeating malaria, but our nation happens to be failing from this because we don't put across the information to these regions. Poverty eradication should start with poverty is brewing. And this is farmers who lack the training and capacity to actually think about a long-term plan as opposed to a short-term plan. I mean, you have farmers who are not irrigating, farmers who are not using the right kind of fertilizer. So business obviously capitalizes by just dropping a shop close by, and people buy instead of producing. Yet they work to produce all year and wait for rain. While there is a river in the region and it should be the fruit basket of our country. So there's segregation as well as unfairness based on regional disadvantage, as well as lack of outflow to the capital, whereby these instructions can be handled on the level that the people who want government assistance have. The red line must go. And when we talk about the Ovambo region, this is where we get the politically connected business people. Business people who own party business industries, who have that sort of mentality of we are the ones that deserve this, or they are the ones that can do it right. And they are failing with all of the funding that goes into that region, both private sector as well as public. With all that investment, you have people dying from drought. And then you have the other region which has people surviving. Or when I say dying, I mean being so hungry that you are malnourished. I'm speaking about kids now. Kids become malnourished, but the problem is they end up developing illnesses due to that particular stage where their body was under duress. And this is why I said that Professor Joseph Disho was removed because of public relations. And I'm talking about public relations whereby he has the level whereby he is known all across Africa and kind of almost the world. So he has that influence of when he speaks, people listen. So when he's speaking negatively, even though if you actually go back and read, there was a lot of positive and praising of Namibia. But when you start to analyze it yourself and you see that your criticism is not seen as progressive criticism. And the sad part is that these people actually admitted that they pushed him out due to politics. They defamed him due to politics. And I can relate, I'm speaking from experience. So it's basically spitting in someone's food just because you can't eat it too, which is morally and ethically wrong. He was put there by the president himself. So those lazy people at NIPAM, instead of adjusting and starting to work hard in accordance to the knowledge and experience, wisdom that he's giving them, decide to kick him out. What does that show? It's corruption based on profile, where the person is being overly professional. He's a professional, and as professionals we tend to get a lot of offers from the outside world, and that's why he was brought back to come help. So this has nothing to do with the fact that he's my uncle. He is a big example of a Kavango who excelled. He excelled to the point. He excelled to the point where he becomes a champion of his roots, where he comes from. And just like me, when you come from outside and come back in, when you look, you will see what other people are not necessarily paying attention to, because it's business as usual. And this is not the administration of business as usual, nor is it an administration that is easily overwhelmed by politics and caves in. With all of these facts, there is no way a person can honestly tell me that there has been improvement. We can go all the way back to land, when some people wanted to cross the border and take other people's land, and there was nearly a fight. And if some people had died there, I reckon there would have been civil war at the top in the north. So the people felt like the Kavangos are useless people. And as with Disho, because a lot of people read his dictums, he was giving the country bad publicity according to them. But that's not the case. To stream a positive message all the time is false. It means people that are afraid to run into problems that they have to solve because they don't have the capacity to solve those problems. And that is unfair, to take out a professional who could be used as a turnaround. And by the way, the Sarah said that it's not based on dictums. But the thing is, Sarah is not the one that fired him. The insight and all of the burden is on NIPAM. In the Kavango region, the insight and the entire burden is on those people who are in regional power. And Kavango region is also the result of Windhoek being so disassociated with that region that there is a small number of representatives within the region, and that is not because it should be based on tribal picking. Although, when the second majority is not second in power, then this is circulatory power, because the people that came before cannot force themselves to stay in power. So the politics is dirty, ethically and morally wrong. And let's not say that I don't get targeted, or my family and those people close to me were not targeted because of my contributions, which rattled a lot of people when they found out that they were not merely contributions but actually instructions. So, speaking at this capacity, I think there really is a need for introspection, whereby we keep our most valuable people, because it benefits the nation. Just because some people happen to have bought their qualifications, some people have to lie about their qualifications and capacity. So now they want to take out someone who has actual credibility because they don't want to be humiliated. It's the same thing when people were saying I was rambling nonsense, because they were not at the capacity to understand what I was talking about. And then the world came in and they shouted, but you people are basically just people who are not intellectually informed. This is basic. You want to end poverty and you go to the farms that have no grass. What is the priority? While you have the region which is the most fertile, regions which are the most fertile, that are abandoned because their foundation was not set up before independence, as we have here at commercial farms. It was after. And just to show how the transition needs this kind of disruption, the red line is an apartheid era heritage. The Berlin Wall was broken down. Why wasn't the red line broken down? Lack of vision, looking into the future. This is about investing time and money into people so that they can facilitate us. Municipalities keep getting bailed out by the government because they are failing. Municipalities in debt are failing, and it cannot be said that this is because people don't pay or whatever. No, it means there is such a lack of infrastructure that it did not account for the young kids to grow up to be adult and have kids of their own, thus making it bigger. So as the population grows, there is no expansion of government, and that is one of the things that have to change. Now, my comment on Toya was not based on him, but his ministry. Because it ends up affirming the unfairness as well as the pressure. He is from the Kavango region and he is censoring them. Like he does not understand his plights. He acted on the wrong instructions. When I said tribalism could blow up and it shouldn't be encouraged, I was not saying let's censor the people who are demonstrating. What I was saying was let us listen and start working on solutions. But this censoring just shows how power is situated only in one place. Because this was information of the people's plight. So I understand why there is an attempt to censor. Because the country should have a good reputation so that investment can come in. But investment comes in when you say this is the problem. And they come in to invest to solve the problem so that they can end up benefiting themselves. Putting up a false cloak of beauty is not going to solve the core issue. The tribalism is not at the top level government. The tribalism is at the middle structures of government and at the bottom, where you have cronyism translating later into tribalism. The people that are not affected by tribalism and nepotism and cronyism cannot understand it. They think no, like for example this, I'm saying this because I come from that region of Makavango, which is not true. So it needs to be scaled. It needs to be scaled. How do we gauge it? How else can you gauge it? Pressure. And it's only right for people to put pressure on government. How else do you get progress? So instead of thinking about the future of the country, some people are busy stuck in the present and the past. Stuck in the present by way of they want to preserve their positions of power, even if it means they are failing the people. This is wrong. And I stand by the region, and I included Caprivi region because it is also faced with the same problems, whereby the entire region supports their champions so hard that they end up at the top and remaining at the top because of those voices of let the people have some sort of pride in their region. My trips to the north were all research, and I'm going to apply that research, as nail-biting as it might be for some people. I know most ministers just started, most people just got their post, but 4-5 years is a limited time if you're not working around the clock. So internal development is a must. The constitution will be rewritten to specify traditional power and governmental power based on influence. Whether those that are currently kings should actually be classified as advisors, traditional advisors, as they are supposed to know a lot about their region. And if those people are quiet, as they are, if the kings wanted to get up and come and march, that demonstration was bribed away. And that lack of backbone to some of us is very disturbing, very cowardice. Fearing problems means being an enemy of solutions. We can't have that.